Captain Li Wan stood at the massive viewing window of the Galactic Council chamber, watching alien ships drift through the void like distant stars. His weathered hands gripped the metal railing as he waited for the verdict that would decide humanity's fate. Behind him, 300 species from across the galaxy murmured in their various languages, creating a symphony of sounds that no human throat could produce. Earth was dying. Everyone knew it. The blue marble that had been humanity's home for millions of years was choking on its own pollution and running out of resources. The oceans were empty. The forests were gone. The air itself was becoming poison. 2 billion humans crowded onto a planet that could barely support 10 billion. Wars raged over the last drops of clean water and the final patches of fertile soil. Li Wan had seen it all during his 40 years as a military commander. He had fought in the water wars of 2381, survived the Great Famine of 2384, and led refugee convoys through the dust storms of 2386. Now, at 55 years old, he was humanity's last hope for survival among the stars. The council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Veltak of the Zentari Empire approached the speaking platform. The alien was tall and thin, with silver skin that seemed to glow under the chamber's lights. His 6 arms moved in flowing gestures as he spoke, while his voice came through the universal translator with a cold, mechanical tone. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Veltak began, his 4 eyes scanning the assembled representatives. We gathered today to address the human situation. As you all know, Earth's population has reached critical levels. Their planet is no longer able to support life. They have requested our assistance in finding a new home among the stars. Li Wan felt his heart pound as whispers filled the chamber. Most of the alien species had never helped another race before. The galaxy was vast, but habitable worlds were rare and precious. Each species guarded their territories jealously. The Zentari Empire has found a solution, Veltak continued. His thin lips curved into what might have been a smile. We offer the humans colonization rights to Kepler-4 to see a world in the Outer Rim territories. It is theirs to claim if they dare to take it. Dr. Park Mina, standing beside Li Wan, gasped quietly. Humanity's chief xenobiologist, she knew about Kepler-4 to see. Everyone in the scientific community knew about it. The planet was legendary for being completely uninhabitable. The world offers interesting challenges, Veltak said, his voice carrying a hint of amusement. The gravity is 2.3 times Earth normal. The atmosphere contains high levels of sulfuric compounds that corrode metal and burn organic tissue. Surface temperatures swing from -80 degrees Celsius to +120 degrees Celsius within a single day. Radiation storms sweep across the surface every few weeks, delivering enough energy to kill most known life forms. The chamber erupted in clicks, whistles, and roars of what Li Wan could only assume was laughter. The universal translator struggled to keep up with the chaos of alien sounds. Even the most peaceful species seemed amused by the Zentari's offer. Engineer Kim Tae stepped forward, his young face pale with shock. They want to kill us, he whispered to Li Wan. They're offering us a death sentence and calling it a gift. I know, Li Wan replied quietly, but what choice do we have? Commander Yoon Jae, the military security chief, clenched his fists. We could fight them, make them give us a real world, not this death trap. With what? Dr. Basu asked softly. The medical officer had spent the last year treating victims of Earth's environmental collapse. We barely have enough ships to carry our people to safety. We cannot fight 300 species. Li Wan watched as Veltak raised one of his hands for silence. The alien's 4 eyes seemed to glow with satisfaction as he continued his presentation. Galactic Council has voted Velthak announced. By a margin of 287 to 13, we offer the humans this opportunity. They may take their people to Kepler 404 to see and attempt to build a new civilization. If they succeed, they will have earned their place among the stars. If they fail, well, the universe will continue without them. The chamber fell silent again. Li Wan could feel hundreds of alien eyes watching him, waiting for his response. Some seemed curious, others appeared bored. Few looked almost hungry, as if they were watching a gladiator enter the arena. "We need time to consider this offer," Li Wan said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. "Time is a luxury you do not have," Velthak replied. "Earth's environment continues to deteriorate. Your scientists predict total collapse within 6 months. The next available transport window to Kepler 4 to see opens in 3 weeks. Dismiss it, and you will wait another year for the orbital alignments to be favorable again." Dr. Parkmena stepped forward. "May we examine the planetary data? Our scientists need to understand exactly what we would be facing." Velthak's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Of course, though I suspect you will find the information quite illuminating." He gestured to his aide, who projected a holographic display of Kepler 4 to see into the center of the chamber. The planet appeared as a swirling ball of brown and yellow clouds, with occasional flashes of lightning that lit up the toxic atmosphere. The surface, when visible through brief breaks in the cloud cover, looked like a hellish landscape of jagged rocks and flowing rivers of liquid metal. The atmospheric composition is 78% nitrogen, 19% oxygen, and 3% various sulfur compounds, Velthak explained. "Breathable for humans. Technically, though, the sulfur will burn your lungs with every breath. The surface is rich in heavy metals and rare minerals, if you can survive long enough to mine them." Kim Tae studied the display with the intensity of an engineer trying to solve an impossible puzzle. "The gravity will crush our bones. The air will poison our lungs. The radiation will cook our cells. The temperature swings will freeze and burn us in the same day." "Exactly," Velthak agreed. "It is a world that would kill any civilized species within hours. Perhaps humans will prove to be different." Li Wan looked at his team. Parkmena was already taking notes, her scientific mind working through the challenges. Kim Tae was sketching rough diagrams of possible shelter designs. Yoon Jae was calculating how many people they could save if they tried. Dr. Bae Su was quietly running medical projections on her tablet. "We need to discuss this privately," Li Wan said. "Of course," Velthak replied. "Okay, take all the time you need. The next few hours will determine whether humanity has a future among the stars or becomes another extinct species in the cosmic record." As the human delegation filed out of the chamber, Li Wan could hear the aliens beginning to discuss them in their native languages. The universal translator caught fragments of conversations, betting odds, time estimates, predictions of how long humans would survive on the death world. None of them gave humanity more than a few weeks in the corridor outside the chamber. Li Wan gathered his team in a tight circle. "Well," he said quietly, "what do you think?" "I think they want us dead," Yoon Jae said bluntly. "This is not generosity. This is execution with extra steps." "Maybe," Parkmena said slowly, "but it is also an opportunity. We can adapt to Kepler 4 to see. We prove that humans can survive anywhere. We become valuable to the galaxy instead of being seen as a burden." "The engineering challenges are immense," Kim Tae admitted, "but not impossible. We would need to completely rethink how we build, how we live, how we survive. It would require innovations that have never been attempted." Dr. Bae Su looked up from her tablet. "The medical risks are extreme. We would lose people, many people, but the alternative is losing everyone when Earth finally collapses." Li Wan nodded slowly. He had made difficult decisions before, but never one that would affect the entire future of humanity. How many people can we save? The transport ships can carry 50,000, Yoon-jae replied. Maybe 60,000 if we pack them tight and sacrifice some supplies. 60,000 out of 50 billion, Lee Wan said quietly. 1 in a million. 1 in a million is better than 0, Park Mina said firmly. And if we succeed, we can come back for more. Lee Wan looked back toward the chamber where the aliens were still debating humanity's fate. Then we take the deal. We go to their death world and show them what humans can do. And if we all die? Kim Tae asked. Then we die trying, Lee Wan replied. But I have a feeling the galaxy is about to learn something new about human stubbornness. The first thing that hit Captain Lee Wan when he opened his eyes was the smell. Even through his sealed helmet, the air recyclers could not completely filter out the sharp, burning scent of sulfur that seemed to leak through every seal. His body ached from the increased gravity, and each breath felt like lifting weights with his lungs. 3 months had passed since the Perseverance had entered orbit around Kepler-4 for the sea. 3 months of careful planning, desperate preparation, and increasingly grim reality checks. Now, lying in the twisted wreckage of Drop Pod 7, Lee Wan realized that all their planning had not been enough. Captain, can you hear me? The voice crackled through his radio with heavy static. Commander Yoon-jae sounded stressed, which was unusual for the normally calm military officer. Okay, I'm alive, Lee Wan replied, struggling to sit up in the increased gravity. Barely. What's our situation? Not good, sir. 17 drop pods made it down safely. 8 pods crashed on landing. Pod 7's electronics failed during descent. 3 pods are completely missing. We have no contact with them. Lee Wan felt his stomach drop. Each pod carried between 200 and 300 people. If 11 pods were lost or missing, that meant over 2,000 colonists were dead or in serious danger, and they had only been on the planet for 6 hours. He forced himself to stand, his legs shaking under the crushing weight of the planet's gravity. Through the cracked viewport of his pod, he could see the hellish landscape of Kepler-4 for to see. The ground was covered in sharp, black rocks that seemed to steam in the toxic air. In the distance, yellow clouds swirled around jagged mountains that looked like broken teeth. I need a full report, Lee Wan said into his radio. Where's Dr. Park Mina? She's at the main landing site with engineer Kim Tae. They're trying to set up the first shelter dome, but they're having problems. Lee Wan began walking toward the main landing site, each step a struggle against the planet's crushing gravity. His boots left deep prints in the strange, oily soil. The ground seemed to shift and bubble under his feet, as if something was moving beneath the surface. As he walked, he passed the wreckage of Pod 12. The metal hull had been eaten away by the planet's corrosive atmosphere, leaving holes that looked like giant bite marks. Inside, he could see the emergency supplies they had packed so carefully back on Earth. The food containers had dissolved. The water purification tablets had turned to powder. Even the metal tools were covered in rust and corrosion. This is worse than we thought, Lee Wan muttered to himself. When he reached the main landing site, he found chaos. Colonists in heavy protective suits were struggling to unload supplies from the undamaged pods. Dr. Park Mina was kneeling beside a group of people who had removed their helmets too early and were now coughing up blood from breathing the sulfur-rich air. How many? Lee Wan asked as he approached. 15 so far, Dr. Basu replied, looking up from her medical scanner. The sulfur compounds in the air are burning their lung tissue. I can treat them, but they'll need weeks to recover, if they recover at all. Engineer Kim Tae approached with a grim expression on his face. Captain, we have a serious problem. The atmospheric readings were wrong. The sulfur concentration is 3 times higher than the Galactic Council data indicated. Our standard air filters can't handle it. What does that mean? Lee Wan asked. It means we can't breathe the air, even with our equipment. The filters will fail within days, maybe hours. And that's not the worst part. Kim Tae led Lee Wan to a nearby supply container. The metal sides were covered in a strange, eating foam that seemed to grow as they watched. The atmosphere is more corrosive than we expected. It's not just burning our lungs, it's dissolving our equipment. Our shelters won't last a week. Lee Wan felt a cold fear settle in his stomach. How long can we survive with what we have? Maybe 2 weeks, Kim Tae replied. 3, if we're very careful with our supplies. Dr. Park Mina joined them, pulling off her helmet to reveal a face streaked with sweat and worry. I've been analyzing the soil samples. The ground is saturated with heavy metals and toxic compounds. Nothing from Earth will grow here. The seeds we brought are already dying. What about the hydroponic systems? Lee Wan asked. The metal components are corroding too fast. We need to find a way to protect our equipment from the atmosphere, or we'll starve before we can grow anything. Commander Yoon Jae's voice crackled through the radio again. Captain, we've got another problem. The weather monitoring station is picking up a massive storm system moving in from the west. Looks like one of those radiation storms the Centauri warned us about. Lee Wan looked at the darkening sky. In the distance, he could see flashes of green and purple lightning dancing through the yellow clouds. How long do we have? Maybe 6 hours, Yoon Jae replied. And sir, the radiation levels are off the charts. This storm will kill anyone caught outside, even in full protective gear. Then we need shelter. Now, Lee Wan turned to Kim Tae. Can you get at least one dome operational? I can try, but the connections keep failing. The atmospheric acid is eating through the seals faster than we can replace them. Dr. Bae-soo looked up from her patients. Captain, I'm getting reports from the other landing sites. People are getting sick. Not just from the air, but from something in the soil. Their skin is breaking out in burns where they've made contact with the ground. Lee Wan felt the weight of 50,000 lives pressing down on him, heavier than the planet's crushing gravity. They had known this would be difficult, but the reality was far worse than anyone had imagined. The Galactic Council had not just given them a difficult world to colonize. They had given them a world that seemed designed to kill them as quickly and painfully as possible. Kekwana said quietly, maybe we should consider evacuation. The Perseverance is still in orbit. We could get some people back to the ship. And go where? Lee Wan asked. Earth is dying. The council made it clear this is our only chance. But Captain, Dr. Park Mina said, we're losing people faster than we can save them. In 3 days, we've lost almost 300 colonists. If this continues, we'll all be dead within a month. Lee Wan watched as another group of colonists struggled to move supplies to higher ground. They moved slowly in the heavy gravity, their protective suits already showing signs of corrosion. In the distance, the radiation storm was getting closer, its green lightning illuminating the toxic clouds. We're not giving up, he said firmly. The Galactic Council expects us to die here. It's probably taking bets on how long we'll last. But humans don't give up. We adapt. How? Kim Tae asked. Our equipment is failing. Our food is rotting. The air is poison. The ground is poison. Even the rain is poison. Then we learn to live with poison. Lee Wan replied. Dr. Park Mina, I need you to stop thinking about how to make this world like Earth. Start thinking about how to make humans fit this world. Dr. Bae-soo, I need medical solutions that work with what we have, not what we wish we had. Kim Tae, I need you to build with materials that this planet can't destroy. And if we fail? Dr. Bae-soo asked. Lee Wan looked at the approaching storm, then at the faces of his team. Then we fail, trying something that has never been attempted before. But I don't think we'll fail. I think the galaxy is about to learn why humans survived on Earth for so long. What do you mean? Dr. Park Mina asked. Earth was never a friendly planet, Li Wan said. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, plagues, famines. Our world tried to kill us for millions of years, but we're still here. We adapted. We survived. We thrived. He pointed at the storm. This planet thinks it can kill us with poison air and crushing gravity and radiation storms, but it doesn't understand what it's dealing with. It's not fighting some soft, civilized species that gives up at the first sign of trouble. It's fighting humans, and humans are really, really good at not dying. Kim Tae managed a weak smile. So, what's the plan, Captain? We stop fighting the planet and start learning from it. So we figure out how to breathe poison air, how to build with materials that can't be destroyed, how to grow food in toxic soil. We do what humans have always done when faced with impossible odds, which is, Commander Yoon Jae asked over the radio. We evolve, Li Wan replied, and we do it fast. The radiation storm hit an hour later, turning the sky green and purple with deadly energy. But by then, the humans had retreated to the partially completed shelter dome. It leaked. The air filters were failing. The food was running low. But they were alive. And for humans, being alive was just the beginning. 1 year after landing on Kepler-4 4-C, Dr. Park Mana stood in what had once been impossible. Round her grew rows of green plants that should have died within minutes of touching the planet's toxic soil. Instead, they thrived, their leaves thick and waxy, their roots deep and strong. The genetic modifications are working better than we hoped, she told Captain Li Wan as they walked through the underground greenhouse. We've successfully altered earth, wheat, rice, and soybeans to not just survive in the local soil, but to actually feed on the heavy metals that were killing them before. Li Wan knelt beside one of the rice plants and touched its unusual purple-tinted leaves. How did you do it? We stopped trying to make the soil safe for earth plants, Park Mina explained. Instead, we made the plants capable of processing the toxins. They absorb the heavy metals and convert them into nutrients. The sulfur compounds that were burning their roots are now helping them grow faster. Hey, it had taken months of failures and dead crops before Park Mina's team had their first success. The breakthrough came when they stopped thinking like Earth scientists and started thinking like Kepler 442c natives. They studied the few microorganisms that lived in the planet's soil and learned how they processed the toxic environment. Best part, Park Mina continued, is that these modified plants are actually more nutritious than their Earth's ancestors. The heavy metals they process create new vitamins and minerals that humans need to stay healthy in the increased gravity. Captain Li Wan smiled for the first time in months. How much food can we produce? Enough to feed the entire colony within 6 months. Maybe even enough to start expanding our population. They walked deeper into the greenhouse complex, which was carved into the solid rock beneath the planet's surface. Engineer Kim Tae's innovations had made this possible. Instead of building structures that the planet's atmosphere could destroy, he'd learned to build with the planet's own materials. Kim Tae, show the captain your latest discovery, Park Mina called out. The young engineer emerged from behind a wall that seemed to be made of flowing metal. Captain, look at this. He placed his hand on the wall, and it began to glow with a soft blue light. I call it living metal. It's a combination of local minerals and modified bacteria that actually repairs itself when damaged. Li Wan stared at the wall in amazement. It's alive, sort of, Kim Tae replied. The bacteria feed on the sulfur compounds in the air. When the metal gets corroded, the bacteria rebuild it stronger than before. The more the atmosphere tries to destroy it, the stronger it becomes. How did you figure this out? Kim Tae grinned. I stopped trying to protect our materials from the planet. Instead, I made materials that used the planet's hostility as fuel. The corrosive atmosphere that was destroying our equipment is now powering our buildings. They continued through the underground complex, which had grown far beyond the original shelter dome. Kim Tae's living metal construction methods had allowed them to build quickly and efficiently. The walls pulsed gently with their own inner light, providing illumination without any external power source. We've also solved the air filtration problem, Kim Tae said as they entered a large central chamber. See those vents? He pointed to organic-looking openings in the walls, and not mechanical filters. Still living organisms that we've bred to process the toxic atmosphere. They eat the sulfur compounds and exhale clean air. Dr. Bae-soo met them in the central chamber. Her medical equipment spread across several tables. Captain, you need to see this, she said, holding up a scanner. The medical readings from our second-generation colonists are remarkable. Second generation? Lee Wan asked. The children born here on Kepler-4 for to see, Dr. Bae-soo explained. They're not just surviving the environment, they're thriving in it. Their lung capacity is 40% greater than Earth normal. Their bone density is increasing to handle the heavy gravity. Their skin is developing natural resistance to the radiation. She led them to a viewing window that looked into a play area where dozens of children were laughing and running. One was amazed to see them moving easily in the crushing gravity that still made every step difficult for the adult colonists. The children don't need breathing apparatus outside, Dr. Bae-soo continued. Their lungs have adapted to process the sulfur compounds. They're not just surviving here, they're becoming natives. What about the adults? Lee Wan asked. We're adapting to, just more slowly. The genetic therapy treatments I've developed are helping our bodies adjust to the environment. We're not becoming as adapted as the children, but we're getting stronger. Every month, Commander Yoon Jae's voice came through the communication system. Captain, we have visitors. Lee Wan looked surprised. Visitors? From where? A trading ship just entered orbit. They're asking for permission to land. They want to trade for some of our innovations. The four friends made their way to the surface, where a small alien spacecraft was setting down on the landing pad that Kim Tae had built from living metal. The ship was unlike anything Lee Wan had seen before, with a hull that seemed to shift and change color as it moved. The ship's captain was a tall, thin being with green skin and large, curious eyes. I am Captain Nexus of the trading vessel. Wanderer, the alien said through a universal translator. We have heard incredible stories about what humans have accomplished on this world. We wish to trade for your living metal technology and your atmospheric processing organisms. Lee Wan exchanged glances with his team. You want to trade with us? Of course, Captain Nexus replied. Your innovations are the talk of the Outer Rim. Worlds that were thought uninhabitable are now being reconsidered because of your discoveries. Everyone wants to know how you made the impossible possible. We're willing to trade, Lee Wan said, carefully. So what do you offer in return? Captain Nexus gestured to his ship. Information, star charts, technology from other worlds, and most importantly, news from the Galactic Council. What news? Park Mina asked. They're watching you, Captain Nexus replied. Every species in the galaxy is watching you. When you first landed here, they started betting on how long you would survive. The longest odds were 6 months. No one expected you to last a year. And now? Lee Wan asked. Now they're sending scientific expeditions to study what you've done. 3 different species have requested permission to establish research stations here. They want to learn from you. Dr. Bae-soo stepped forward. What do they think of us now? Captain Nexus made a sound that might have been laughter. They think you're either the most adaptable species in the galaxy or completely insane. Probably both. But they're not laughing anymore. Why not? Kim Tae asked. 'Cause you've done something that no other species has ever accomplished. You've taken a world that was designed to kill you and made it into a home. You've turned your weaknesses into strengths. You've made the impossible look easy. Li Wan felt a surge of pride. "So what happens now?" "It's what Captain Nexus said. You get to decide what comes next. You have something every species in the galaxy wants, the knowledge of how to survive anywhere. The question is, what will you do with that power?" Li Wan looked at his friends. Park Mina was still covered in soil from her genetic modification experiments. Kim Tae had living metal dust on his hands from his latest construction project. Dr. Bay Sue's scanner was beeping with readings from the adapted children playing nearby. Commander Yoon Jae stood ready to protect them all. "We'll do what humans have always done," Li Wan said finally. "We'll help others survive. We'll share what we've learned, and we'll keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Even if it means other species will compete with you," Captain Nexus asked. Li Wan smiled. "Especially then. The galaxy is big enough for everyone to find their place. And if other species can learn from our example, then maybe fewer worlds will be dismissed as uninhabitable. Maybe fewer species will face extinction." Captain Nexus nodded approvingly. The Galactic Council chose their death world. Well, they just didn't expect humans to turn it into a garden. As the trading ship departed with samples of living metal and atmospheric processors, Li Wan stood on the surface of Kepler-4 for the sea without a breathing mask for the first time. The air still burned slightly in his lungs, but his body had adapted enough to handle it. In the distance, he could see the lights of New Seoul, the thriving city they had built from nothing. The galaxy had expected them to die here. Instead, they had learned to live. And now, the galaxy was coming to them, asking to learn how they had done the impossible. Li Wan breathed deeply of the toxic air that had once nearly killed him, smiled. The real adventure was just beginning. 5 years after the first human boots touched the hostile surface of Kepler-4 to sea, Captain Li Wan stood atop the tallest spire of New Seoul and marveled at what his people had built. The city stretched out below him like a living organism, its buildings pulsing with bioluminescent light and growing taller each day. 75,000 humans now called this impossible world home. "The morning shift reports are in," Commander Yoon Jae said as he joined Li Wan on the observation deck. "Mining production is up 30% from last month. The new deep excavation teams have found 3 more deposits of rare crystals that the galaxy has never seen before." Li Wan nodded, watching as transport vehicles moved through the city's living metal tunnels. The vehicles themselves were marvels of adaptation, built with Kim Tae's revolutionary biotechnology and powered by the planet's own toxic atmosphere. "How many off-world contracts do we have now?" 47 active mining contracts with 23 different species, UNJ replied. "Everyone wants our rare metals, especially the crystal formations that only form under this planet's extreme conditions. The Zentari Empire alone has placed orders worth more than the entire GDP of most colony worlds." It was ironic that the Zentari, who had offered this world as a death sentence, were now among their best customers. The heavy metals and rare crystals that made Kepler-442c so hostile to life were exactly what advanced alien technologies needed. Most Dr. Park Mina's voice came through their communication devices. "Li Wan, you need to see what we've discovered in the deep biolabs. It's remarkable." Li Wan and Yoon Jae made their way down through the city's organic transport system. The living metal walls provided perfect insulation against the planet's radiation storms, while the bioengineered air processors kept the atmosphere breathable throughout the entire underground complex. They found Dr. Park Mina in Laboratory 7, surrounded by alien scientists from 6 different species. She was showing them a collection of organisms that seemed to glow with their own inner light. "These are the native microorganisms we've been studying," Park Mina explained to the fascinated aliens. "But we've discovered something incredible. They're not just surviving in this toxic environment. They're thriving because of it. The heavy metals and radiation that should kill them are actually making them stronger. A tall blue alien with 4 arms raised, one of his hands. Dr. Park, Mina, how have humans learned to work with these organisms so effectively? My species studied similar microbes for centuries without achieving any practical applications. Park, Mina smiled. We stopped trying to control them and started learning to cooperate with them. Humans have always been good at making friends with other species, even microscopic ones. She led the group to another table where samples of enhanced human tissue were growing in transparent containers. We've developed a symbiotic relationship with these organisms. They help our bodies process the toxic environment, and we provide them with nutrients they need to reproduce. You mean humans are becoming part of the planet's ecosystem? Asked the small, insect-like alien. Exactly, Dr. Park, Mina replied. The second and third generation children born here aren't just adapted to this world. They're integrated with it. They can survive radiation levels that would kill most spaceship crews. They can breathe atmospheric mixes that are poison to their parents. They're becoming something new. Engineer Kim Tae appeared in a laboratory doorway, covered in the metallic dust that came from working with living metal construction. Dr. Park, Mina, the aliens want to see the new city expansion project. Are you ready? The group followed Kim Tae through a series of tunnels that led to the surface. When they emerged, they found themselves standing before a massive construction site where robotic systems and human workers were building the largest structure any of them had ever seen. This will be the Galactic Research Institute, Kim Tae explained to the amazed aliens, a place where species from across the galaxy can come to study extreme environment adaptation. We're building it with advanced living metal that can repair and improve itself. The structure will actually become more efficient and stronger as it ages. A green-skinned alien with large eyes stepped forward. Engineer Kim Tae, my species has tried to develop self-repairing materials for generations. How did humans achieve this so quickly? Kim Tae grinned. We cheated. Instead of trying to engineer materials that could resist damage, we engineered materials that could heal from damage. The difference is that resistance eventually fails, but healing can last forever. He showed them a small piece of living metal that had been deliberately damaged. As they watched, the material began to flow and reshape itself, healing the damage and becoming even stronger than before. The secret is working with the planet instead of against it, Kim Tae continued. This world tries to destroy everything, so we made materials that become stronger when destroyed. Now, our buildings actually benefit from the hostile environment. Dr. Bezu joined them at the construction site, leading a group of young adults who moved with the fluid grace of people born in heavy gravity. These are some of our native-born citizens, she announced proudly. They're volunteering to help with the construction. The aliens stared in amazement as the young humans began working without breathing apparatus or protective suits. They lifted massive pieces of living metal that should have required mechanical assistance, moving easily in gravity that would crush most adult aliens. How is this possible? Whispered an elderly alien with silver fur. Adaptation, Dr. Besu replied simply. These young people aren't struggling to survive in this environment. This is their natural habitat. They're as comfortable here as their grandparents were on Earth. One of the young humans, a woman named Park Soo, who had been born during the colony's second year, approached the group of aliens. "Welcome to our world," she said in perfect galactic standard. Though her voice had the slightly musical quality that came from vocal cords adapted to the planet's atmospheric density. "We hope you'll enjoy your stay." The aliens were speechless. Here was a human who had never known any world but this hostile death trap, speaking to them as if they were guests in a beautiful garden. Captain Lee Wan watched the interactions with pride and amazement. When they had first landed on Kepler 4 for the sea, he had hoped they might survive long enough to establish a basic colony, He had never imagined that they would create something like this. "Captain," Commander Yun-jae said quietly, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. They want to schedule an official diplomatic visit." "What kind of visit?" Li Wan asked. "A formal inspection and recognition ceremony. They want to officially acknowledge what we've accomplished here and discuss our application for full membership in the Galactic Council." Li Wan felt his heart skip a beat. Full membership. They want us to join the council. "It gets better," Yun-jae continued. 17 species have formally requested that we help them establish colonies on worlds they previously considered uninhabitable. They want to hire human expertise to make the impossible possible on their own death worlds. Dr. Park Mina overheard the conversation. "We've gone from being refugees, begging for scraps, to being the most sought-after specialists in the galaxy. Everyone wants to know how we turned a death sentence into a thriving civilization." Kim Tae joined them, wiping living metal residue from his hands. "I've been thinking about those requests from other species. We should help them. Imagine if every uninhabitable world in the galaxy could be turned into a thriving colony. We could increase the habitable space in the galaxy by thousands of %, and make a lot of friends in the process," Dr. Basu added. "Nothing builds alliances like helping someone survive when they thought they were going to die." Li Wan looked out over New Seoul with its growing spires and bustling population. The distance, he could see the lights of the mining operations that were producing materials the galaxy had never seen before. Above them, alien ships came and went daily, bringing scientists, traders, and diplomats who wanted to learn from the impossible human achievement. 5 years ago, the Galactic Council gave us this world expecting us to die," he said quietly. "They thought they were getting rid of a problem. Instead, they created something they never expected." "What's that?" Cart, Mina asked. They created a species that could survive anywhere," Li Wan replied. "And now every species in the galaxy knows it. We're not just colonists anymore. The specialists you call when you need to survive the impossible." Yun-jae smiled. "The galaxy wanted to know what humans were capable of. I think they're about to find out." As the double suns of Kepler-4 Fortescue set behind the toxic clouds, casting purple and gold light across the thriving city, Li Wan realized that their greatest adventure was still ahead of them. They had proven that humans could survive anywhere. Now they had the chance to help the entire galaxy discover new worlds that had been written off as impossible. The Death World had become humanity's greatest success story, and the galaxy was watching. 10 years after the Galactic Council had sentenced humanity to die on Kepler-4 Fortescue, Captain Li Wan stood once again in the great chamber where it all began. This time, everything was different. This time, he was not begging for scraps. The galaxy was listening. The chamber buzzed with excitement as representatives from 300 species filled their seats. At the center of the great hall, a massive holographic display showed real-time images of New Seoul, now a sprawling metropolis of 200,000 humans in the unofficial capital of the Outer Rim territories. Ambassador Veltak of the Zentari Empire shifted uncomfortably in his elevated seat. His 4 eyes avoided looking directly at Li Wan, who stood confidently at the speaker's platform wearing a suit made from Kepler-4 Fortescue. Living metal that shifted color with his movements. As honored members of the Galactic Council, Li Wan began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. 10 years ago, you offered humanity a choice. Death on our dying homeworld, or death on a world you believed would kill us even faster. Today, I stand before you to report on the results of that choice. The holographic display changed to show the thriving agricultural domes where Dr. Park Mina's genetically modified crops fed hundreds of thousands. Dead. It shifted to the mining operations that had become the galaxy's primary source of rare crystals and heavy metals. Finally, it showed the Galactic Research Institute, where scientists from dozens of species worked together to solve the galaxy's most challenging colonization problems. Kepler-4 for to see is no longer the death world you gave us, Li Wan continued. It has become the most successful colony in the Outer Rim. Our population has grown from 50,000 desperate refugees to 200,000 thriving citizens. We have established trade relationships with over 100 species. We have helped 12 other species establish colonies on worlds they thought were uninhabitable. A low murmur ran through the chamber. Some species whispered in amazement. Others clicked or chirped in what sounded like approval. But Li Wan noticed that Veltec and several other council members looked distinctly uncomfortable. Furthermore, Li Wan said, his voice growing stronger, "We have done something that no other species in galactic history has achieved. We have turned humanity's greatest weakness into the galaxy's greatest strength." The display changed again, showing images of young humans working easily in environments that would kill most aliens within minutes. Children born on Kepler-4 for to see swimming in acid lakes, breathing toxic atmospheres, school, and lifting objects that should have crushed them under the planet's heavy gravity. Dr. Park, Mina, stepped forward to join Li Wan at the platform. Her hair was now streaked with silver, but her eyes were bright with the fire of discovery. Honorable council members, we have learned something remarkable about life itself. Adaptation is not just possible, it is inevitable if you have the courage to embrace change instead of resisting it. She gestured to the display, which now showed microscopic images of the symbiotic organisms that lived in harmony with human biology. We have formed partnerships with life forms that exist nowhere else in the galaxy. Together, we have created new forms of technology, new methods of construction, and new ways of living that make previously impossible worlds habitable. Engineer Kim Tae joined them on the platform, carrying a sample of living metal that pulsed with its own inner light. This material repairs itself when damaged, grows stronger under stress, and provides both structure and power to our cities. It is alive, conscious, and cooperative. We did not invent it, we learned to communicate with it. A representative from the crystalline Vorthok species stood up. Engineer Kim Tae, my people have tried for millennia to create self-repairing materials. How did humans achieve this breakthrough so quickly? Kim Tae smiled. We stopped trying to control everything and started learning to work together with everything. Humans have always been good at making friends. We just extended that skill to include planets, metals, and microorganisms. Dr. Bae-Soo stepped forward with her medical scanner, displaying the vital signs of a group of native-born humans. Children of Kepler-4 for to see are not just adapted to their world. They are evolved beyond what we thought possible. They can survive in vacuum for short periods, okay? They can process radiation as nutrition, okay? They can communicate directly with the planet's living systems. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. These were not just successful colonists. These were the first members of a new branch of humanity that could live anywhere in the galaxy. Commander Yoon Jae approached the platform, carrying a datapad. Honorable Council, we have received formal requests from 47 species asking for human assistance with their own impossible colonization projects. We have agreed to help them all. Veltec finally stood up, his tall frame rigid with what looked like anger or fear. This is impossible, he declared. No species can adapt this quickly. No world can be transformed so completely. Okay. You must have received outside assistance. You must have cheated somehow. Okay. Li Wan turned to face the Centauri ambassador directly. Ambassador Veltec, we did exactly what you expected us to do. We went to the world you gave us. We used only the resources we found there. We followed all galactic colonization laws. The only thing we did differently was refuse to die. But how? Valthok demanded. How did you survive what should have killed you within days? Because, Li Wan replied calmly, you fundamentally misunderstood what humans are. You saw a species that had nearly destroyed its own planet and assumed we were weak. You saw refugees fleeing a dying world and assumed we were defeated. You saw people begging for help and assumed we were helpless. He stepped closer to Velthek's platform. What you fail to understand is that humans are survivors. We survived ice ages on Earth. We survived plagues that killed most of our population. We survived wars, famines, disasters, and our own mistakes. We survive because we do not give up, we do not surrender, and we do not accept that anything is impossible. Dr. Park, Mina joined the confrontation. You also failed to understand that humans are collaborators. We do not conquer our environment. We join it. We do not dominate other species. We partner with them. Even when you tried to kill us, we still chose to help you. The chamber erupted in discussion as species began debating among themselves. Some seemed amazed by the human achievement. Others appeared worried about the implications. A few looked genuinely frightened by what humanity had become. The elderly leader of the council, an ancient being whose species had founded the galactic government thousands of years ago, slowly stood up. The chamber fell silent out of respect for his age and wisdom. Captain Li Wan, the council leader, said in a voice that sounded like wind through crystal formations. The Galactic Council owes humanity a formal apology. We gave you a death sentence and called it a gift. We expected you to fail and secretly hoped you would disappear. We were wrong on all counts. He paused, looking around the chamber at the assembled representatives. But more than that, we were blind to what you could teach us. You have shown us that life can thrive anywhere if it is willing to change. You have demonstrated that cooperation is stronger than domination. You have proven that there are no impossible worlds, only impossible thinking. The council leader gestured to an empty section of platforms that had been prepared with human size seating. The Galactic Council formally invites humanity to join us as full members with voting rights and representation. We also establish the Human Adaptation Institute as an official council agency, with authority to assist any species that requests help with extreme environment colonization. Li Wan felt tears forming in his eyes. We accept both honors, he said, but we want to make something clear. We are not joining this council to prove that humans are superior to other species. We are joining to prove that all species are capable of more than they imagine. Dr. Park Mina stepped forward. We will share everything we have learned freely with anyone who wants to learn. We will help any species that faces extinction find new ways to survive. We will turn death worlds into gardens, not for human benefit, but for the benefit of all life in the galaxy. Ambassador Valthok remained standing, his 4 eyes now looking directly at the human delegation. Do you want from the Centauri Empire? He asked quietly. Li Wan considered the question carefully. We want to help you find new worlds too. Colonize. We want to trade our living metal technology for your advanced space travel systems. We want to work together to make the galaxy a place where no species ever has to face extinction alone. Valthok was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, he bowed his head in what humans recognized as a gesture of respect. The Centauri Empire accepts your offer of friendship. As the session ended and the various species began filing out of the chamber, Li Wan stood with his old friends, looking out at the stars through the chamber's massive viewing windows. Somewhere out there, Kepler 440c continued its orbit around its violent star, its toxic storms raging across continents filled with thriving human cities. What do you think happens next? Dr. Basu asked. Now we go home, Li Wan replied. Back to our impossible world, with our impossible people, to do more impossible things.